Hey guys, what's going on? My name is Neremik and welcome back to more of the Great Ace Attorney Chronicles. Last time we started interviewing Pat and Rolly on the stand, and we're continuing right on with that. Of course, if you do end up enjoying, feel free to like, comment, and subscribe, and let's get into it. I have considered the defense counsel's request for a further summation examination of the jury, and I have determined that the court must uphold the defense's judicial right to this procedure. So, counsel, you will now proceed with your second summation examination. I presume the jury is ready, Mr. Foreman? We are, my lord. Very good. In that case, I must ask each of you now to state clearly and concisely for the court the grounds on which you find the defendant guilty of this crime. Okay, so it should be easy enough. We're starting off with arguably the most fun part of this game. So, we just got to pit them against each other. So, the accused left behind evidence at the scene, didn't he? Those 3 books of his. If there was some novel alternative explanation about how the victim was stabbed, I might reconsider. Even if the woman was throwing books, it can't be related to this crime if the window was closed, can it? Dear me, it was only a little book. Hardly life-threatening, even with a direct hit. Look, I just want to get this over with. If I don't bring up some pay tonight, I'll be in a tidy bit of trouble. Come to think of it, we had a fire at home a while ago. Gave me the sneezes. Okay, so there's a lot of pressing here because 3 of those statements give me nothing to work on. So, a considerably more tangible argument from all members of the jury this time around, it seems. With one notable exception, of course. My learned friend student was unable to find the fault in the previous witness testimony. So the court must accept the fact it was indeed the accused seen fleeing from the scene. And moreover, no one else was even at the scene to commit the crime. Well, if the eyewitnesses are correct, it would seem as if the conclusion is somewhat set in stone. I fail to see how it can be argued any other way. That means I'm afraid that during the summation examination, it's essential that you establish some other tangible explanation for the facts. But how will we contribute a tangible explanation here? Isn't it obvious? Who stabbed the woman, and how? Those 2 details are all you need to provide. Simply give us a name and a method by which the attack was conducted. And now I was thinking this might be hard. But Miss Narado, you have to do it, otherwise this really will be where the trial ends. Ugh, no pressure then. That's quite enough preamble. Let's proceed with the summation examination, please. I presume you're prepared, counsel? Oh, yeah, my lord. Alright, Ryunosuke, focus your mind now. Clearly, the key to the summation examination is going to be juror number 4, the maid. Or should I say Miss Garrydeb. We have a book that disappeared from the Garrydeb's house on the evening of the incident, and the 4th book found in the victim's hand. There must be a way to link the 2. Yeah, that's what we have to find. Using every technique I've learnt in my short career so far, whatever it takes. Don't forget to keep an eye on Miss Garrydeb and how she reacts, even so things other people might say. Okay, so I like the sound of this. I'm rather positive I know the course of action, so we shall see how it goes. So, accused left behind evidence at the scene, didn't he? Those 3 books of his. There's nothing against that. Some novel alternative, we'll come back to that. Even if she was throwing books, it can't be related to the crime if the window was closed, can it? We will press him for that. But what about the possibility that the window was open? What about it? I mean, there's just no way it could have been. How can you be so sure? The prosecutor fellow over there said it earlier, didn't he? Point is, London are no joke. You don't want to invite that sort of cold indoors. So no, that window wasn't open. Us Londoners like sitting by the fire and staying warm, see? Okay. But you couldn't categorically state that the window wasn't open, could you? It just wasn't. They wouldn't have opened it. Then what's the point in even having windows, huh? Counsel, you will kindly refrain from childish bickering. Oh, sorry. Somehow I need to show there's an undeniable possibility that the window was open, because this young man isn't going to budge otherwise. Okay, old man at the end, he said he got the sniffles. I assume that's because he left the window open and it was cold. A while ago gave him the sneezes. Does that have anything to do with your decision about the defendant's culpability in this case? Sorry, what's that? You'll have to speak up, lad. Could you tell us more about that fire? It was last winter. My grandchildren baked me a lovely cake on my birthday. It had 75 candles on the top, it did. What a sight to behold it was. You put candles on a cake? Oh, was this some kind of devil worship? Of course not! It was an angel cake. To celebrate my birthday, obviously. It seems that's a common custom here in Great Britain, Mr. Naruhodo. Anyway, I must have done my puff to blow them out. Only it must have blown wrong somehow. The flames didn't go out, but candles went flying all over the room. The furniture caught and everything went up. The whole place filled with smoke. Definitely sounds like devil worship to me. And by the sneezes, I presume you mean a cold, but how did you catch a cold from a fire? What a fiasco it was. The grandchildren, blessed them, threw water over me as they tried to put out the flames. And then, because the old room had filled up with smoke, of course, we had to open all the windows to clear it. The windows. The biting winter air rushed over me like the devil dancing on me grave, it did. I got a terrible cold from it. Put me in hospital for a while. I won't forget that birthday in a hurry. I knew it was devil worship all along. But something about this old man's story is playing on my mind for some reason. Okay, so we've got a way to pit two of them together. So we need to demonstrate who, apart from Mr. Natsume, could have attacked the young woman on the streets, as well as how he or she could have done it. Yes, but once again, the jurors' statements are full of personal prejudice. A lot of them seem convinced they're right, even in the face of logical arguments to the contrary. I think you're going to need to pit them against each other to force them to accept an alternative explanation. Yes, I don't necessarily need to find contradictions between their assertions, just a connection might do the trick. Alright, I'll see what I can do. If anything sounds out, I'll go for a strike. That's the spirit. Okay, so we've got one immediately. So, juror number 3, you didn't know how in the hell a window could be open? I've got your alternative explanation for you. Objection. These two juror statements clearly contradict one each other. They do? How exactly, counsel? Don't point at me again. I told you it wasn't me. Huh? What's that, you say? Speak up, lad. Speak up. Juror number 3, do you see? Oh, me? See what, sir? Did you hear juror number 6's account of his birthday celebrations last year? It seems, despite being a Londoner, he once opened his windows in the middle of winter. Well, yes, of course, because it was an emergency. I mean, obviously, if the room was filled up with smoke from a fire, then you'd be mad not to open the... Oh! Exactly. On the day in question, at the time of the incident, there was a fire in the Gary Depp household, and Mr. Gary Depp had the following to say about it. The whole place filled with smoke. Oh, my hat! Oh, my. Therefore, to clear the smoke, either Mr. Gary Depp or his wife will most certainly open the window. That, you cannot deny, would be in no way out of the ordinary. No, I suppose it wouldn't. And okay, I see you're panicking a little. Excuse me. Juror number 4, do you have anything to say about that? Miss Gary Depp! Oh, dearie me. What is the meaning of this? How dare you imply I'm hiding who I really am? It's imperative that you confirm something for the court, so please, it's time to drop the pretense now. What is it? When the fire started in your house that day, did you or did your husband open the window? What? I beg your pardon, what are you insinuating? The room would have been thick with smoke after the carpet and bookcase caught fire as they did. In a situation like that, it's inconceivable that you wouldn't have opened the window. And what if we did? Oh, alright then. Yes, you're right. My husband was frantically trying to open the window. Which can't have been easy, since I continued to give him a just and deserved book battering. Even though your house was on fire. Oh, you never stop throwing until the anger subsides. It'd be terribly bad for the nerves to do otherwise. Of course, I should have realised. That's a significant step forward, Mr. Naruhodo. You've managed to establish that the window was open. We simply must have added that. We must have that added to Miss Gary Depp's formal statement. Okay. Now you mentioned, yes, the window was open at the time. I'd quite forgotten, but it's true. Okay, so we could pit the two of those together again, but... So, there was some novel alternative explanation about how the victim was stabbed. I might reconsider. We'll, Let's see. So, winter house fires that die, you have to open windows to clear the smoke. I just want to get this over with. Okay, I'm going to press you because you're not giving me anything, so therefore you need to get pressed. You just want to get this over with? How can you sit there and say something like that? A man's future is at stake here. Well, and me both then, like I said before. What? I told you already, I'm a day labourer, aren't I? If I don't bring home some ruddies with me tonight, you'll find me floating face down in the Thames tomorrow morning. What? You heard me. My missus doesn't want to mess around, you know. She can be fierce, you believe me. Another shining example of marital bliss, then. A situation like this cropped up the other day. It was, well, Oh, do you know what's funny? But I can't quite remember. Sorry. It was too frightening. That's the thing. I must have blocked it out. Helpful. I wonder if Mr. Pete will have to be dragged into the Thames by a scarf. Don't even go there, Mr. Sato. There must be some way to jog his memory about this. So, we need to find out something about a couple having an argument. And the window's open at the time. It's definitely a possibility. Oh, so you've updated your thing now too. See, it's like, what if she was throwing a knife? It's like, I want to pit you against him to be like, oh, she threw a knife. But I doubt I can jump to that conclusion, despite the fact that's probably what happened. So, we'll pit you next. But as we now know, there were 4 books, not 3. Well, what difference does it make? There's every possibility that the 4th book, in fact, belonged to the defendant's landlord. Yeah? That's what I have a problem with. Sorry? Well, at the point the woman was stabbed, this landlord fellow was home, wasn't he? Enjoying a furious squat with his wife or something, you said. That's not exactly how I put it, no. Well, anyway, the point is, the fellow and his wife was somewhere else when it happened. I think that's what you call a strong alibi. So it couldn't have been the landlord who did it, which only was the Nipponese fellow. Honestly, I can't see what all this palaver's about. It's a done deal, isn't it? I suppose it is, since I've nothing witty left to say. So he's not getting budged. If there was some other alternative, like, I hope Naruhodo brings up the prospect of a knife, because I don't want to risk having to pit them together to get that. So you might be willing to change your decision, you mean? Oh my, such delight on your face. But I'm afraid I shan't be swayed by emotion. Despite what you may think of me, I am a very modern, metropolitan and rational woman. That's great. If one reads the morning papers, it's all forgotten by tea time, isn't it? So I read them in the first place. You see? Modern, metropolitan and rational thinking, wouldn't you say? And not at all extreme. As I see it, an overwhelmingly suspicious Japanese man has been implicated by overwhelmingly strong testimony, so despite 1 or 2 minor puzzlements, I do declare that the man is overwhelmingly guilty. Modern, metropolitan, and rational logic, wouldn't you say? Overwhelmingly. But us modern gals are always delighted to embrace new fads, you know. So I'd be only too happy to consider an exciting new theory if you could come up with one. She's literally a true crime podcaster. Okay, I'd be happy to do that if only I could. Let's do our very best not to disappoint the modern and metropolitan young lady. Right. I'm glad you omitted rational there. Okay. So you've pressed everyone now as the thing. Press you. And then we'll just have to stop hitting blindly. So, the 4th book found at the scene of the crime shows the very obvious signs of fire damage. And the title of the book is The Lion's Pride. The same title, in fact, as the book Mr. Garrideb told us he'd been reading. Well, I really couldn't say. On the day in question, did you or did you not throw at your husband the copy of The Lion's Pride that he had been reading? I did. It was the first thing I could lay my hands on, so I hurled it straight at him. And now you come to mention it, yes. He was rather enjoying reading it, you're right. Why did you not reveal this information to the court from the outset? Because I couldn't, you insolent little man, I didn't remember. At times like that, you pick up and throw whatever you can lay your hands on as well, you know. I really don't. I barely noticed I was throwing a book, much less the title of it.
Oh boy.
Here we go.
Excuse me.
What is it, juror number 5? You know something? I've remembered what it was. That memory I blocked out. Ah. It was listening to what this granny was saying, but it all put him back. Oh. Oh, you calling a granny, you cheeky devil. I'm Miss Garrideb, or the maid, I'll have you know. The man doesn't even flinch. Please tell me that's not because he's so used to being here all the time. It was about 2 weeks ago now. I just got back home from work, like. I put my hand in my pocket for the wages I'd just earned that day, and I nearly died. There was a hole Everlost penny dropped out. Oh dear, what a disaster. You haven't heard the half of it, boy. Oh? Life was cutting up some chicken at the time. I could only get the words out, but I told her straight. And what's the day's wages of? Next thing I knew, the blade was whistling past my ear. Stuck into the wall next to me, it did. About an inch deep. No words, just terror. I could smell it then, you know. That god-awful stench of the Thames. I'm sure it was going to end up face down in the muddy banks that night, I can tell you. Now, that's a real disaster, innit? I'll never use the word lightly again. Anyway, the point I'm trying to make is this. When women lose their rag, they'll throw anything at you. Knives, hatchets, hammers, you name it. Miss Narada, you mustn't think that all women are so short-tempered and unrefined. No, I wasn't thinking that. Throwing household objects at people is, well, it's so uncivilized. At least attack with honour using a bow or the like. What? Attack? Yeah, who are you going to attack? Never mind. Anyway, the man's words. Could be rather significant, I think. Alright, we can come back to the bow and arrow thing later if I dare. Okay. A woman in rage will hurl almost anything at you. The kitchen knife really brought that home to me. I think we got it.
Objection.
Those two statements clearly have a deeply significant connection. Good grief, you mean they don't contradict each other? Explain, counsel, at once. Juror number 2, do you think perhaps that this could be one such novel alternative? Oh my, whatever do you mean? An alternative explanation as to how the victim was stabbed in the back. Oh, what are you talking about? We've demonstrated that the 4th book, The Lion's Pride, that was found at the scene of the crime, originated in Mr. Garrideb's room on the top floor of his house. Therefore, it's equally possible that some other object besides the book could have found its way from the Garrideb household to the street below. What's that now? After all, Mrs. Garrideb could have thrown any number of different objects at her husband. Isn't that right, juror number 4? Oh, what are you insinuating now, you little beanpole? I'm beginning to think that, ever since the true origins of this book came to light, perhaps she's had a feeling this might be what happened. Now you listen here, you Eastern Gala. As foreman of the jury, I demand a straight answer. You give us this yarn about some other object making its way out of the house, but what? What was it? We're taking a big gamble here. That was a bold accusation to make, but I haven't really any evidence to back it up. But I'm certain that at the very least this warrants further investigation. Alright, Mr. Foreman, I'll try to explain the defence's theory. The other objects that found its way from the Garrideb household to the scene of the crime was...
Take that!
Juror number 4, Miss Garrideb. What? What now? I must apologise in advance for this. But I need you to confirm something else for the court. This knife. Have you ever seen this knife before? Ah. Good Lord, counsel, what are you doing? That's the weapon that was lodged into the victim's back, man! My lord, remember that when the victim was attacked, Mr. and Mr. Garrideb were in the throes of an argument. Mr. Garrideb was hurling anything she could at her husband, who'd been backed up against the window. A window that had been opened to clear the smoke, and through which a book sailed to land at the crime scene. You can't seriously believe that the book was found in the victim's grasp? Are you saying that it flew out of the window and across the street to land neatly in her hand? Ugh, if my missus ain't got a name like that. Yes, I admit there are many details we don't yet understand, but that's the point. That's precisely why we must not allow this trial to end. Not now. Oh my. Oh. Miss Garrideb, your answer, please. Have you seen this knife before or not? Oh, oh! My lord. I wish to change my decision. I'm a woman of my word, after all. Thank you, madame. Yes, I agree. I certainly didn't see this coming, but I just don't think it would be right for this trial to come to an end now with so many unanswered questions. Mr. Foreman! I'd have to agree. Not that I think the Granny did it, mind.
Yes, you know what? I'm not quite happy about this at the moment either.
All together now, ladies and gents.
We did it! Oh, congratulations, Mr. Naruto.
So, as a result of the defensive summation examination, a number of jurors' leanings have changed. 2 jurors called guilty against 4 now calling innocent. Accordingly, the opinion of this court is divided. And this trial will continue. Now then, Lord Van Zieks, how does the prosecution wish to proceed?
This trial is rapidly descending into a farce. Like a corked wine, the first few sips are bitter enough. But what follows is so repugnant it's good for nothing save the gutter.
If I may, Lord Van Zieks, the defense has just put forward a credible alternative explanation for what happened.
Credible? Is that your considered opinion, Mr. Foreman? The defense's argument is a joke to which I barely know how to respond, but let me start by insisting that you must all familiarise yourselves better with the relative positions of those places being discussed. What do you mean by that? What's his angle this time? It should already be more than apparent that between the crime scene and the Garrett household runs a rather wide street, Briar Road. Which means that the distance from the Garrett house to the scene is some, yes, 15 yards. Let me see, 15 yards. That's around 14 meters. For 14 meters. That's all the farther than I'd imagined. And, as you ladies and gentlemen of the jury all rightly noted having pretentious significance, the force book was found in the victim's clutches. In other words, the smouldering book, wantonly hurtled over by the lady of the house, travelled some 15 yards, to land on the opposite side of the road, then neatly between the collapsed victim's fingers and the thumb. Is that your final conclusion, my learned and deluded friend? And did a jackknife follow an identical trajectory to plunge into the middle of the victim's back? This fantasy is somewhat stretching the notion of having a bad day for the victim, I think. Even those pathetic serialized detective stories have more believable plots. There's nothing I can say to that. That prosecutor loves the sound of his own voice. Mr. Sato! Serialized detective stories are pathetic, are they? How dare he? Maybe let's pick up our battles here. My lord, might I be allowed to speak?
As judicial assistant, you may speak for the defense, yes. Go ahead.
The prosecution may consider the idea a fantasy, but what the defense has postulated was believable enough to persuade the jury to change its learning. And as such, the court has a duty to explore this alternative explanation as thoroughly as possible. To that end, juror before, Miss Joan Garrydeb, must be called to testify and submit to cross-examination.
Sakes alive! A cross-examination of a juror? Order, order, order! Well, this is highly irregular. It is impressive for a member of the jury to be summoned to the witness stand.
Objection!
And unnecessary.
And Lord Van Zieks.
There are already witnesses in the stand whose testimony the defense may further cross-examine. If my learned friend's partial theory has any truth in it, then both the burning book and the jackknife must have been thrown through the sky before this couple's eyes. And we must assume that they would be able to testify accordingly.
What say you, witnesses?
Yes, sir! Constable Royley beats person for duty, sir. Well, good morning, officer. Sorry for dozing until now. Sir? I haven't slept for a month on account of a villain who's appeared on my beat, sir. Oh, they're so heroic, these London bobbies. Patricia, my darling, I've been neglecting you, but no more. Oh, Rowley, my hero, you make me swoon.
Very well. I hereby reject the defense's request. Oh. Oh. And order the witnesses in the stand to testify again. State forthwith before the court any details pertaining to the defense's alternative explanation of events.
Yes, sir!
Witness testimony, and probably the last thing we're going to do this episode. So, Constable Beats report.
This case has nothing to do with Mr. and Miss Gary Depp. Believe me, London Bobby is good for his word. You see, sir, the windows on the top floor of the Gary Depp house are top-hinged casements. Obviously, if anything had been thrown out of the window, we would have seen it. I did leave the scene to go fetch help, but my trusty Rolly was there to make sure nothing was disturbed. I didn't take my eye off the crime scene for one moment, sir. Nothing strange to report on that front, sir.
Well, this is right startling. Top-hinged casement windows? That data was not in the police report, Constable.
Ah, yeah. Sorry about that. I must have been a little drowsy.
You cannot excuse your sins with the drowsiness every time, Constable.
No, sir!
Sorry, but... what exactly is a top-hinged casement window? And you cannot excuse your ignorance with such trite remarks, my learned friend. Of course. Sorry.
I found it, Mr. Naruto. Cast your mind back to the windows in Mr. and Mr. Gary Depp's room.
Alright, I'll try.
So the window opens in order to allow air to circulate inside the house. But as it's a top-hinged casement window, it swings open along the upper edge, you see.
I'm glad you've rectified your ignorance. A casement window's most prominent feature is its stay, a metal bar which prevents the window from being opened beyond a certain amount.
It prevents its opening. This is all news to me. Absolutely correct, sir. In other words, if a book or knife were to have been thrown out through the open window, it would have clattered against the pane and fallen straight down to the pavement below.
No. You see the problem then? Good, your education in windows is complete. There was never any possibility of either the book or the knife travelling 15 yards over the road. That is, unless the window pane had been shattered, something we've discounted already.
That can't be! Did you see that, Rowie? That young Japanese man just collapsed in agony.
Oh yes, my darling, I saw it. I saw how he crumbled before me.
Oh, Rowie, you're so strong.
Sorry, I'm gonna throw up. How is this happening?
I haven't even started the cross-examination yet, and already my argument's been destroyed.
Counsel, if you could drag yourself upright again, the court awaits your cross-examination.
My lord. Oh good, another desperate situation.
Okay, so we can't mess this one up. We need to find a contradiction, or a way that it still could have managed to fly across the road. So this case has nothing to do with Mr. and Miss Gary Depp. Believe me, London Bobby is good for his word. You see, sir, the windows on the top floor of the Gary Depp house are top-hinged casements. Obviously, if anything had been thrown out of the window, we would have seen it. Press that. But according to my notes here, the sun had gone down already and it was dark.
Oh, but Rowie and I were strolling along, gazing at the night sky and looking for a lucky star.
Sorry.
A star that will guide us to eternal happiness.
Can't it guide you to the answer of the question? If a flaming book had crawled across the sky in front of us,
it would have lit up like a shooting star. And if I'd seen a shooting star, I would have made a wish upon it. Let Roy be an inspector, I would have said 3 times at least.
Of course, what with the smoke and everything, we couldn't actually see any stars. In short, are you trying to say that neither a book nor a knife crossed the sky before you?
Yes, sir, that is correct, sir. As I'm sure the night sky in London is starless, sir.
It certainly seems like they're telling the truth.
And then we saw the poor woman fall to the ground, so we ran straight over to help her.
Okay. I did leave the scene to go fetch help, but my trusty Rolly was there to make sure nothing was disturbed. Okay. That might be an important detail.
Yes, you said you went to a nearby police box to fetch another officer, is that right?
That's right, yes.
If it had been on Rolly's beat, I would have known exactly where I was going, of course.
Don't feel bad, my love. You can't be expected to know the location of every police box on every beat.
So Rolly told me the way, only I sort of got a little lost on the way. Patricia, my darling, that's why I love you. Your terrible sense of direction is bewitching to me. Oh, Pat. Oh, Rolly. Oh, please. So I suppose I was gone for about 15 minutes. But like I said, my Rolly was at the scene the whole time, making sure nothing was disturbed. I was off duty at the time, of course, but a true Bobby is never really off duty, sir. And it didn't take my eye off the crime scene for one moment, sir. Nothing strange to report on that front, sir.
Hold it!
Nothing to report? That's correct, sir. I had my eyes wide open the entire time. Never looked away for a second. Nobody else approached the scene and nothing was removed from it. I can swear on that yard's honour, sir. Really? That seems a little strange. I beg your pardon, sir. Strange, sir. Seems altogether all right to me, sir. The spoon copy of the Lion's Pride was originally in the Gary Depp household, so the question remains, how did it find its way into the hands of the victim? Could you shed any light on that, seeing as you were there at the scene of the crime? Aha! Could it be a different copy, sir? One that just happened to be burnt as well? Even if that were possible, why would the victim have been gripping a book like that in her hand? As you can see from this photographic print, she had a bag over her shoulder. Well, sir, that book was in the lady's hand from the moment we arrived at the scene. Is that so? There's something about this statement that's not sitting right with me. Too mysterious of how that knife ended up in her back and how that book ended up in her hand. There must be some common thread between them. I'm so sorry, Mr. Narado, I had no right to speak out. But what do you mean? I requested the cross-examination of Miss Garrido without consulting you. Even if the judge did deny me. Oh, I see. Well, I agree with you. We do need testimony from Miss Garrido. I don't know if we're ever going to get to the truth of this matter. Do you really think so? Well, to think about it, no matter how far it is across the road or how that window opens, Mr. Garrido's book found its way to the scene of the crime somehow, didn't it? You're right. And there was Mr. Garrido's reaction to me showing her the knife. The woman's hiding something, I'm sure of it. You're right again. We need to use this cross-examination to uncover more clues. We'll get to the bottom of this one way or another, I swear. Yes. Okay. So we could press these next two and then go on the pressing frenzy, but didn't take my eye off the crime scene for one moment. Nothing strange to report on that front. Is there something here that should have, like, struck differently? I don't know. If that book was in her hand from the beginning, they should have had to be across the road. It's like the local map, I don't think that helps. Second-hand book receipt. Case file. It's like, I need something more concrete to go with the theory I want to try and present, so we'll press those first two statements, see if something pops up which gives us an in. How can you say that for certain? A very good question, sir. And the answer is this. It has notable founding principles of the force written on it as a reminder to all us policemen of sworn duty. He showed us that before, didn't he? Did he? I can't say I remember. To patrol the streets of London town that behold appears to the common man. It's what the job's all about. And that's why I can stand here today beside my long-suffering wife to tell you a Bobby's good for his word. Well, I'll ruin my side eyes admittedly. Sir! Oh, Rolly, you're so manly. Of course I am, my darling Patricia. Oh, Pat. Oh, Rolly. No, none of this is what I meant. I meant, how can you say for certain that this case has nothing to do with Mr. and Miss Garrido? Ah, I see, sir. You should have said so earlier, sir. Yes, well, so could you answer the question? That was a waste of time, then. Absolutely, sir. I will answer it to the fullest of my ability, sir. There's a surprising reason why Mr. and Miss Garrido's domestic dispute can't be related to this case. But before I get into that, sir, just one thing. Yes? I'd very much like you and all your countrymen to understand the great British institution of Scotland Yard. So I hope you'll take back some tales of us London Bobbies and how we employ our guiding principles. I wasn't planning on going back just yet. I've only just arrived here. So to that end, sir, I'd be happy to lend you my warrant card for your perusal. But I must warn you, you won't be able to get through without shedding a few tears. Thank you. I'll try. Constable Beat's warrant card has been entered into the court record. Okay. You see, sir, the windows on the top floor, so that's not going to give me anything to work with. So,
I'm going to read this piece of evidence because that is single-handedly going to get us out of this jam. So, a policeman will strive to preserve the peace within his allotted beat. A patrolling officer is expected to walk 20 miles around his beat every day for the furtherance of community relations. Any of crimes that fall under the jurisdiction of the beat in which they are discovered. When a crime is discovered on his beat, a policeman must assist with initial investigations and help detectives. Principles of policing. A policeman will strive to preserve the peace within his allotted beat, 20 miles. So basically, how we understand this is if this body was discovered in his beat, he would have been disturbed in, what's it called? That night, he would have had to stick around and help. Okay, so I didn't take my eye off the crime scene for one moment. Nothing strange to report on that front, sir. It is, though, because it wasn't on your beat, so why the fuck were you there?
Objection.
Oh, I thought I had it. I thought I had it. Right, we'll press that then, because... Okay. Okay. Didn't take my eyes off the crime scene for a moment. We'll press that again. Okay, nothing to report. That's correct. Had my eyes open the other time, though. When I approached the scene, nobody else was there. I can swear on Yard's honour, sir. Really? That seems a little strange. Beg your pardon, sir. Strange. Seems rather regular to me. Again, this is screaming weird to me, but I don't... Different copy, yeah. We've seen all this before. So we have to press the second statement, because otherwise I'm not going to get anywhere. It's got to be something to do with him having to stick around the initial investigation. Which we know he didn't do, because they were out on a date, weren't they? So... Press the second thing, speed through it. Then we will see. Okay, yes, I've read all this before, I believe. So it's like, could the top hinged windows comment really be that much of... what's it called? Importance? So, by which mean they don't open fully, is that correct? Yes, sir. They're just there to allow a bit of air through the house, you see, so they're restricted as to how much they open. And therefore anything thrown out of the window from inside the room would have simply strikes the pane and fell to the street directly below. For clarity, allow me to mark the map. Oh, okay. Here is the location where objects would have fallen. Yes. Directly opposite the scene of the crime on the other side of the rather wide road. Would it have been so hard for somebody to mention this hop hinge casement thing before? Well, I have another question for you, Constable. And what would that be, sir? How do you even know? Why would you have any idea what sort of windows Mr. and Miss Garridev's house is furnished with? Ah, well, sir, that's very simple. You see, I helped with the investigation yesterday. Gotcha.
Excuse me.
Do you have something to add, Miss Beats? Sorry? You look, well, delighted. Is there some particular reason for that? Oh, I was just remembering. That's all. You really were so lucky. Lucky? What do you mean? Well, of course I feel terrible for the poor woman who was attacked. Don't misunderstand me, please. But we were so lucky it didn't happen on Rolly's beat. It was so close, you see. Oh, I hadn't realised. Oh yes, that street, Briar Road. That's the boundary between Rolly's beat and the next one. Isn't that right, my love? Constable Beats! Huh? Oh, yeah, that's right. That's the reason I was helping out with interviewing the occupants of Garridev household yesterday. Their house was on my beat, you see, sir. That really was cutting it close, then. Constable, I wonder if you could clarify something. If the Garridev household is on your beats, does that mean that the pavement next to it as well? Outside Mr. Garridev's house? Yeah, that's ma'am. The pavement on that side of the road is part of my beat. I see. I was unaware of that. Just think, if a woman had been attacked just on the other side of Briar Road, we would have been never able to go for that meal to celebrate our wedding anniversary. That's the life of a Bobby, after all. Okay, so I let that detail slip early, but not too early. So, extraordinary people are Bobbies, tirelessly working for the benefit of all Londoners. Do you know what I think? I think it was the good Lord's way of rewarding my Rolly for all his hard work. Don't you think so, my darling? That must be it, Pat, my love. That must be it. I think perhaps we should make sure we have that information officially on record.
Leave it to me, Mr. Naruto. I'll take care of it immediately. Case files information has been updated in the court record. And now it's my turn, I think. Okay. Can I ask you something, please, Mr. Lawyer, sir? Oh, yeah, of course. What is it? You're doubting us, aren't you? I can tell. What? I wasn't really, what's she doing? Please, just because I'm a woman, it doesn't make my testimony any less valuable. You might just see me as the wife of a policewoman, but I'm a woman of my word, I am. I really don't even remember suggesting I ever doubted you. No excuses, I don't want to hear it. My voice will be heard. My lord, you'll let me speak, won't you?
Yes, Miss Peach, I will allow you to supplement your testimony if you so desire. Sometimes the path of less resistance is the sage one.
That was a very loud mutter. I heard that. That Japanese man thinks a policewoman's wife word counts for nothing, does he? Well, watch out, sir. I might get away with something like that, but by roll he won't. Duly noted, Miss Peach. Please, I humbly ask you to continue. What could she possibly be about to say, I wonder? Okay. I know what I saw, my eyes never let me down. My sense of direction is a little off sometimes, though. Press.
Hold it!
Miss Beat, nobody's questioning what you've told us. I saw it, I did. That evening I saw it clearly. That little Eastern man with the whiskers and the funny curved back slinking away from the scene. Ha. And I know what I didn't see as well. I didn't see any flaming books or knives flying through the sky. All very clear. You also mentioned something about having a poor sense of direction. Oh, yeah. Well, that's a little embarrassing, really. I'm always ending up at the wrong place when I've made arrangements to meet Rolly. He gets ever so cross.
What? Excuse me.
Constable Beat, is there a problem? No, sir. No problem, sir. Did your wife's remark just now bring something to mind, perhaps? Oh, well, in a way, sir, yes, sir. I just remember that the same thing happened that evening, is all. You mean Miss Beat lost her way? On the night of the incidents? Well, you see, I sent her off to find a police box in the next beat over from mine, but she was gone a fair bit longer than what I was expecting. I thought she'd be back inside 10 minutes, but my darling was gone a good 15. Oh, Rolly, you're such a tease. But the reason I was long was because of the bouquet, silly.
The bouquet?
Sorry, what bouquet are you talking about? It was a present for our wedding anniversary. Rolly's so romantic. He saved up for it with farthings and halfpennies he found in the gutter while doing his rounds. Yeah, how romantic. I'd forgotten all about it until just now. Had you, my darling?
Oh, yeah. But that was just between us. No talking about it to anyone else, darling. You have to promise.
Really? Oh. What was that all about? Constable Beat looked very obviously troubled during that exchange. I'm afraid I can't offer any useful insight, Mr. Naruto. But I'm quite sure of one thing. We have to ask Miss Beat about the bouquet. Miss Beat, this bouquet you just mentioned. I'd like you to add details about it to your testimony, please. Oh, really? Yes, I'd love to. Okay. What happened was I dropped my bouquet and ended up losing my way for a while. Do I need to actually press again? Where was it found?
Hold it!
You mean you dropped the bouquet at the scene of the crime? Yes, that's right. I was so upset. When we ran over and saw it was a woman with a knife in her back. I was so shocked, I dropped the bouquet Rolly gave me. It was in a dark spot where the streetlights weren't casting any light, so I didn't notice it at first. And then you went to the police box to report it to the policeman whose beat it was on? Yes, and I came back to the scene together with the constable, you see. That's when I spotted my bouquet again, but the funny thing was, when I went to pick it up, it was nowhere near the victim's body at all. In any case, you need reminding, Miss Beat, the victim is not deceased. I was all flustered for a moment before I heard a voice calling me from the other side of the road. Your husband, presumably? That's right. Silly me, I'd gone over to the wrong side of the street. Although I'm gonna blame the bouquet this time. I can't think of how it got there, I really can't. So the bouquet somehow moved from one side of Briar Road to the opposite. Curious indeed. Isn't it? But the worst of it is I forgot to pick the bouquet up again when we left the scene. That beautiful rose Broly bought me, with that change from the gutter he spent so long collecting. By bouquet, do you perhaps mean this sorry solitary rose? Oh, yes, that's it. That's the bouquet Rolly brought me for our anniversary, with all bits of change he found in the gutter. Maybe just call it a rose. Dolls, Lord Van Zooks, where did you come by the flower? According to a report by the police officer in charge of the crime scene investigation, it was found on the edge of the pavement in front of the Garydeb household. In front of the Garydeb's house? Although it wasn't noticed until the morning as it lay where the street lamps cast no light. It was believed to be of no relevance to the case, since it was found on the opposite side of a thoroughfare. Oh, thank you, sir, thank you. Could I have it back now, please?
No, I think for good measure this rose should be added to the court record as evidence.
Oh.
Anniversary bouquet has been entered into the court record.
But it's a symbol of our love. I want it back after the trial, do you hear me? I want it back!
Good grief. Rest assured I shall do my very best to not forget Miss Beats. Okay. So, what happened was I dropped my bouquet and was my way for a while. Let's make sure nothing was disturbed. That rose is gonna do a lot. I think I may present the rose here, because if she dropped it where it stood and it was near the Garydebs, clearly they saw the body near the Garydebs and not across the road, and it was moved.
Objection.
Oh, get out of town! Okay, seriously, this cross-examination's taking the piss. It's gone on so long, and I'm losing it. Like, we've pressed everything. Okay, actually, I'm gonna save, just in case I end up dying, but... losing, but yeah, I'm gonna save, and oh god, the last episode was 3 weeks ago. So you see, sir, top hinged casements. If anything had been thrown at them, we would have seen it. I did leave the scene to go fetch help. My trusty role was make sure nothing was disturbed. Nothing strange to report on that front, sir. It's like... So wouldn't you have seen the rose leave? Is the thing? Like, would you have not have done?
Objection.
Gotcha! You claim, Constable Beat, that there was nothing to report in the 15 or so minutes you were guarding the scene. But that can't be. What do you mean to say? In your testimony just now, Miss Beat, you explained to the court that when you arrived back at the scene of the crime with the policeman assigned to that beat, the bouquet you had dropped at the victim's side was no longer anywhere nearby.
Objection.
Yes, on the opposite side of Briar Road to where the victim was attacked. But considering the size of that mega bouquet, if a single sorry bloom can be so described, no doubt it was blown in the wind across the street, back into the gutter where it belongs.
Meager!
Objection.
But if that were the case, why did Constable Beat not testify to the fact?
No one else approached the scene and nothing was removed from it. Constable Beat swore to that on Scotland Yard's honour. But the bouquet belonged to me, it has nothing to do with the case. That's why Rolly didn't mention it, I'm sure. No, because sadly it's not only your bouquet we're talking about here. More than one thing in this case is mysteriously the wrong way around. What are you talking about? Think about it. Besides Miss Beat's bouquet, there's Mr. Garydeb's book. Mr. Garydeb's copy of The Lion's Pride, which was thrown out of the window by his wife, would have struck the pane of the casement window and landed here on the west side of the street. And yet, it was actually found here on the opposite side of the road in the victim's hand. Meanwhile, according to the testimony we've heard, Miss Beat's bouquet should have been dropped here at the scene of the crime on the east side of the street, but in fact, it was actually found here on the opposite side of the road in front of Mr. and Miss Garydeb's house. There's no logical explanation for those things, unless somebody deliberately moved them. What are you trying to say? The way you're talking, it sounds like you think my Rolly's done something wrong. Don't you listen to what that scrawny lawyer says, writing on about books and bouquets, why should we care? It's nitpicking, that's what it is. Oh good, Miss Gaideb's come around. You might call it nitpicking, Miss Gaideb, but deliberately meddling with the scene of a crime is a criminal offence. It's called, tampering, Miss Naruto. Oh. But the person responsible for this tampering cannot admit to it, for a very subtle but compelling reason.
Objection!
Tampering. You've barely heard the term before. Tell us, my learned friend. Who would have possibly had the cause to carry out such an elaborate deception? Yes, there is someone who tampered with the scene of the crime that evening. All the evidence and all the testimony points to that one particular person. Counsel, I must demand that you substantiate this conjecture. Who are you saying is responsible for tampering with the scene of the crime? Well, if Patricia wasn't there, then it's got to be Rolly.
Take that!
Obviously, there's only one person it could have been. Constable Rolly Beats, it was you! What? A policeman? A member of Scotland Yard? What nonsense, why might Rolly do something like that? There's no one straighter than my husband, no Bobby works more tirelessly for the people of London. Miss Beats, you said in your testimony that your husband asked you to go to a nearby police box to fetch the officer on duty. The 15 minutes that you were absent from the scene is the only opportunity anyone had to tamper with it. You're making this up, it's nonsense, it's all lies. What about that Japanese man with the whiskers? I bet it was him, he did it.
Objection!
If that was true, Constable Beat would have seen him do it. Oh. And forgive me for pointing it out, but when you dropped your bouquet, Miss Beat, it was after the defendant had fled the scene. Well.
Objection!
First you make accusations about the landlord and his wife, and now you incriminate a policeman as well. But your accusations lack one very important thing. You claim the crime scene was tampered with, but there is only one reason anyone would want to commit such a reckless crime: to hide something. That's right, he's right, but my husband and I just happened to be there, that's all. So why would we have anything to hide? It doesn't make any sense. You offer no motive for this alleged tampering, and until you do, your accusations are nothing but empty threats. Constable Beat had a very good reason for wanting to tamper with the scene of the crime. That's the key to this entire affair. Miss Naruto, have you managed to solve this mystery?
Counsel, have you made a very serious accusation against a London police officer? If you are mistaken, I am sure I need not point out that your reputation as a lawyer will be irrevocably damaged. With that stark warning in mind, you will now explain to the court the motive for this alleged tampering.
Yes, my lord. Constable Beat's motive for tampering with the crime scene was to hide where the victim fell. Where the victim fell to the ground. That's what this Bobby had to cover up at all costs. What? Where the victim fell? You mean where she was attacked? What are you talking about? We told you at the very start, didn't we? On the pavement of Briar Road, we saw it happen, remember? It was right here, as if anyone didn't already know. That's certainly what everybody has been led to believe. But in fact, that isn't where the victim was stabbed at all. What? What?
I'm beginning to wonder whether this tumultuous trial will end, Counsel.
If that's your assertion, then the court is dying to know, my Nipponese friend. Where are you proposing that the crime actually took place that evening? Here, of course.
Take that!
But that's...
On the opposite side of the road. I don't understand. On the evening in question, Mr. Gaideb's book fell directly down from the open window above, and your bouquet, Miss Beat, never moved at all. What did move was the scene of the crime itself!
Good gracious!
Objection!
Perhaps you haven't been listening to the ample testimony the court has heard. But these witnesses both saw the moment the attack took place. That's right, I saw it with my own eyes. It was 5 o'clock in the evening and already dark. There was the typical London fog on the ground. When you saw the incident unfold and ran to the victim's aid, that was actually on the west side of Briar Road. No, that's not true. It can't have been. Constable Beat then arranged for you to be absent for a while by sending you for help. And during the 15 minutes you were away, he transplanted the crime scene. He moved all the things shown in this print, the victim herself, the 4 books. He moved everything, in fact, to the pavement on the east side of Briar Road. Extraordinary. But the constable overlooked one thing. What? What did he overlook?
The bouquet, I presume?
Exactly. The prosecution told the court just a few minutes ago about the discovery of the rose bouquet. Lord Van Zeek said it wasn't noticed until the morning as it lay where the street lamps cast no light.
Yes, it couldn't have been seen in the dark, obviously.
Which is why it was only the bouquet that was found in its original position, on the pavement on the west side of Briar Road. And that is the defence's theory about what really happened that evening. How do you respond? Constable Rolly Beat.
Oh, I'm very sorry.
I didn't mean to nod off again,
But I haven't slept properly in a month. Did I miss anything important?
Oh, Rolly. Isn't true, is it? Well, that what he said is all lies, isn't it? I know it is because you're the most upstanding, righteous man I know.
I had a dream. A terrible dream. All the things I did that night. Everything come out. Everything exposed. Only it seems it wasn't a dream at all. Good golly! Order! What on earth is the meaning of all this?
Oh, Rolly, why? Why would you do something like this? Moving a corpse is a criminal offence, isn't it?
Wishing the victim dead should be one too. Constable, explain yourself. Why would you do this? As a respected member of Scotland Yard, your duty is to protect the good people of London Town.
I can't say, sir.
What?
I really am ever so sorry about all this. For damaging the Yard's reputation. For everything.
I have a possible explanation for why, on that particular evening, Constable Beat felt compelled to move the scene of the crime. I can think of one reason. What? How could you possibly know? You, a foreigner presuming to understand the mind of a Scotland Yard policeman? And yes, Lord Van Zeeks, this is a foreigner who has uncovered the startling truth of the matter thus far. I believe it would be beneficial to the court to hear this extraordinary young lawyer's theory. Counsel for the defence, if you please.
Yes, my lord.
Now then, I think you had better show us some evidence.
At once, my lord. England, Japan. Makes no difference where you come from. Human emotions are the same. And I think I have a fairly good idea of the feelings behind this man's actions.
What gives away the motive for Constable Beat's unthinkable actions?
Take that!
I realise that I'm a foreigner in this land, and I only have just arrived from Japan. Which is why all this information about Londoners' so-called bobbies is completely new to me. I've learnt that, though honourable, patrolling the beat is the most demanding work in the world, for example.
Keeping the peace, looking after the citizens on his beat in all kinds of ways. There's no doubt that the young bobby is charged with a great deal to do each day, certainly.
But for Constable Beat, the day in question was special.
Special? How?
On account of this bouquet, my lord. Oh yes! It was our very first wedding anniversary.
Constable Beat had worked so hard to be able to afford this simple gift for his wife, and was looking forward to taking her out for a celebratory meal, when he and Miss Beat stumbled upon a crime along Briar Road. When he saw that shadowy figure through the fog collapse on the pavement ahead of them, what must have gone through the man's mind?
But, sir, on that one particular day I was looking forward to celebrating my wedding anniversary. Miss Beat puts up with a lot of being married to a bobby like me. I wanted to show my dear wife how much I care.
This is the warrant card Constable Beat offered to lend me earlier. Inside, among the rules for patrolling policemen, it says,
When a crime is discovered on his beat, a policeman must assist with initial investigations and help detectives. Aha! Constable beats. Is that or is that not the reason why you moved the whole scene of the crime that day?
Yes.
Everything you said, it's alright. So that's it. It was all to do with the boundary of your beat. Oh. Exactly. To summarise, the incident naturally occurred on Constable Beat's beat.
Good gracious. Constable, do you realise the gravity of what you've done?
It was the first time since I became a copper that I'd ever cursed God.
Stay close to me, Pat. The criminal could still be lurking somewhere.
As we ran over to the scene, I had every intention of doing my duty as a police officer.
You've got to report this to the station as quickly as possible.
But then it dawned on me. I realised where we were, where the victim was lying, and what that meant for me. When a crime is discovered on his beat, a policeman must assist with initial investigations and help detectives. Why here? Why did this have to happen here? And why tonight of all nights? Why? It's a copper's job to guard the scene of the crime, so I told Pat she'd have to go to the nearest police box and fetch whoever was on duty there. It was then when I opened my mouth to speak. It just came out. I couldn't believe the words that were coming out of my own mouth.
This is the next beat to mine, Pat, so you'll have to go to the police box that covers it. Turn right along Meerschaum Street and then... I'm sorry. So sorry.
Oh, Constable.
I just wanted... just that one night to take my Patricia out for dinner.
Oh, Rolly.
Just that one night.
You knew that if the incident was on your beat, your evening of celebration would be ruined. And so you decided to move the entire crime scene outside your jurisdiction, just across the streets to the east pavement of Briar Road, which falls under the neighbouring beat's care.
You see, I thought... well, I was sure the victim was dead, you see. I beg your pardon?
Oh, of course he did. Otherwise my Rolly would never have left the poor woman on the freezing cold pavement.
Ah, I see your meaning now. Well, God got me back for my sins, didn't he? That's why I missed the rose I brought for Pat.
Oh no, Rolly, that was all my fault. I should never have dropped us in such a dark place. I'm so sorry, Rolly.
And can you tell us, Constable, how many books did you move from one side of the road to the other in total?
4 it was. Yes, sir. Definitely 4. 3 of them dropped my missing Natsume, and the 4th being the one that fell from the window upstairs in the Garydep household, of course. But what makes you place that book in the victim's hand? When all the others were scattered haphazardly around, I mean.
Oh, well, sir, that's because that's how I found it.
How you found it? What do you mean?
When we first ran over to the scene, the victim was already old in the book. So, when I moved everything, I made sure it was still in her hand.
You sure it was this book, The Lion's Pride, that the victim was holding?
Oh yes, sir. No doubt about it, sir.
Interesting. The 4th book's information has been updated in the court record.
I thought it was an open and shut case at the time, you see. There were only 2 people at the scene, and me and Pat both saw it happen.
However, which way you looked at it, it had to be the fella who ran off who'd done it. I thought. I couldn't see the arm, really. I didn't think moving it all over the road would make it drop the difference. I suppose this is it for me now. I've had it. My lord.
Yes, Lord Van Zieks.
I believe that concludes the cross-examination of the witnesses. Constable, you may withdraw. Yes, sir. Mr. Prosecutor, sir, what will become of my Rolly? What will happen to him? For now, you are free to go home. The police will contact you in due course. Please don't punish my husband. This was all my fault. It's because I'm always moaning at him for coming home late. Leave it now, Pat. Let's go home. I'm tired. Alright then, my love. One last thing, Constable. Sir? Let this be a lesson to you. In a criminal investigation, every detail matters, however insignificant it may seem to you. Yes, sir. Carve that lesson in your mind. And never again make the mistake of tampering with the scene of a crime. Never again, sir? You mean to say? Leave now. This trial is not yet over. Sir!
Well, quite a startling revelation, I must say. Yes, and quite a startling episode length rendering it here. So if you did enjoy it, feel free to like, comment, and subscribe. It'll help us as much. Let us know and see more of all the good stuff. 2 very lengthy cross-examinations, but very good at the same time, but rendering it here. So if you have enjoyed, feel free to like, comment, subscribe, help us out a bunch. Let us know and see more of this and all that good stuff. But until next time, with all said, all that said, I really hope you've enjoyed, and thanks for watching, guys. My name's Neremik, and peace out.